Today I fucked up by talking to my friend's wife over text through said friend's phone. This actually happened today. Two of my friends at work, Jack and Jill, are married and expecting their first child soon. Like, the due date is in 5 days soon. Because of the nature of my job, I only see Jack maybe once a week. Same with Jill when she was still at work. She's been at home the past month or so while they prepare for the baby's arrival. Anyway, I run into Jack this morning and we start catching up since we both had a half hour or so to kill. I ask him the usual questions. How's your project going? What's the news from that department? Etc. Then I ask how's Jill? Jack proceeds to tell me about how excited she is for the baby to arrive and how she's been playing small jokes on him this week about her water breaking. They're light-hearted and Jack is into it. Jill isn't an asshole, I promise. Then, Jack gets a text from Jill. Apparently he texted Jill he had just ran into me and were chatting it up. She begins to text Jack questions for me. Jack stands next to me so I can read Jill's messages and he texts her back my replies. This is all going fine until I realized they're having a second, totally different conversation at the same time. Jack didn't seem to care as he continued to stand right next to me and hold his phone so I could see it. I tried to still respect their privacy by looking away and then back when Jill replied, but it wasn't the most effective strategy. Then, the FU. I asked Jill a question and was watching Jack type it. Why I wasn't looking away is beyond me. Then, out of nowhere, but really their other conversation, Jill says, "Oh BTW, I thought my water broke after you left but then I realized it was you leaking out of me." Yeah. I just kind of froze and Jack, realizing it was impossible I didn't already see the message, says, "Velp, that was inappropriate. But, hey, gotta keep it alive somehow." I just start laughing, because what else do I do in that situation? And Jack starts to laugh too while telling Jill he accidentally showed me that message. Our conversation ends with them inviting me to have dinner with them and a few other friends tomorrow. So, I guess it ended rather well. Too long didn't read, accidentally became acutely aware of my friend's active sex life with his extremely pregnant wife. Jack FU by having a private text convo in front of you. They clearly want you to come. That's not too bad. Not really a FU by you. You'll just have to make sure to give them awkward looks at dinner. Make sure to order a cream pie for dessert. I guess you have something to visualize when you see her at dinner. Maybe there will be gravy or ranch salad dressing. Good God, I hope not. I think the FU is not giving him a high five and showing support for their relationship. Today I fucked up by having breakup sex with my ex. So, my ex and I broke up about 2 weeks ago, and have still been seeing each other on and off since breaking up, because we lived together and to get her stuff out of my place obviously. So this week on Monday she stayed the night. It was a very emotional day, due to built up feelings and whatnot. It wasn't a bad breakup, it was more mutual than anything. Anyway, we got down to business to have the most physically intense and passionate sex we've ever had. It was pretty G. She then got up to go to the toilet afterwards, and she had troubles going to the toilet. For the next 6 to 7 hours she couldn't sleep, she was throwing up, dizzy, feeling very faint and on edge. She also had a major pain running through her shoulder all the way to her abdomen. I suggested multiple times we need to go to the hospital. Finally, after around 11 hours of pain, she agreed to go to the hospital. Surprisingly to us, she was let straight through into ER. The doctors had no idea what was wrong initially, until they had an opinion given by the more experienced doctor. Turns out my ex has mild polycystic ovary syndrome, and from the intense sex, one of the cysts ruptured and caused internal bleeding. 3 hours after admission she was in and out of surgery. She had keyhole surgery to drain all the excess blood, plus a drain system connected to her uterus which will be connected till the rest of it is out of there. Too long didn't read, gave my ex the D, ended up sending her to hospital with internal bleeding. This will look great on your Tinder profile. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm sure you rationally know that the result of the boinking was a who would have thought kinda thing. I'm guessing the good news might be that, if it hadn't been for your hormones going off, she might never have known she had the cysts, and delaying treatment could have had a much more devastating effect. And on a lighter note, not many decent men can say they almost literally fucked their GF/wife to death. I digress. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, not many can say that at all. My other positive I thought was if she had a one-night stand with a random or something and the same thing happened, she may not have made it to the hospital. I still care about her, and I'm glad it was me and not some other random who wouldn't have cared as much. I have PCOS. I've had a cyst rupture that didn't cause internal bleeding and it had me crying on the floor. She lasted 11 hours, that's intense. To add, I've given birth and walked off a broken leg twice. This is on par or worse than both of those. As soon as you started describing the post-sex pain, I knew exactly what it was. My wife has had 2 kids and swears that the pain your ex-GF went through is worse. I've never seen her in so much pain, and she's had a lot of painful things happen to her. She reckons this was the most painful thing she's ever dealt with. My ex broke up with me last week after 4 years and this made me chuckle. Wish the best for you and hope your ex is recovering well. Thank you, sir. 3.5 years for me, man. Struggle town, but the sex was great though. Today I fucked up by asking my girlfriend to not flirt with me, which caused her to date someone else. Last February, I made a friend through my internet poetry circle and we instantly clicked. Our conversations flowed seamlessly and we realized that we had a lot in common and understood each other effortlessly. Over the course of summer we met a bunch of times and I was smitten by her charm, her sense of humor, her wit, and of course her beauty. Now, I being a man with a lot issues pertaining to being vulnerable about my feelings for people, suppressed this crush as hard as I could, partially because I was not sure if my friend felt the same way about me too. This one night, late into our conversation, I decided to flirt with her a little because I knew that I had to, and her not reciprocating to it would put an end to my misery. As I have mentioned before, I had issues. I was already prepared for a no, and honestly, I believed that she was out of my league, but I had to see it for myself. To my surprise, she reciprocated and I panicked pretty hard because I was not expecting any reciprocation. Some tiny anxious part of me thought it'd be incredibly charming to text her "do not flirt with me," which I meant in a playful and a self-absorbed tone. She took it to heart and put an end to the entire flirting business. Our conversations went on as usual and there was no mention of my disastrous attempt at flirting. Down the line a few weeks later, I saw her Instagram story with a guy who she hadn't mentioned before, and a piece of me died that evening thinking about the idea of her being with someone else and how my attempts at burying my feelings clearly hadn't worked. Since nothing could be done about the situation, I carried on as usual, and we kept talking, and I didn't ask her any questions because I felt that it was not my place to ask them in the first place. 2 months later, I was over at her place and we spent an entire afternoon laughing and drinking cheap wine, at the end of which, we ended up making out with each other. We had long-drawn conversations over the course of the following weeks where we unspooled the ball of confusion that had entangled the two of us. It turned out that when I asked her not to flirt with me, she suppressed her feelings for me too, and instead decided to date someone who seemed more emotionally available and interested in her. It's only reasonable and fair to be with partners who want you to flirt with them, right? Over the course of time she realized that she still had feelings for me and decided to end things with them. All this while I was under the impression that since she was already dating someone, there was no point watering my feelings, and hence I compartmentalized them in a big mental box. We ended up spilling our feelings for each other and we managed to sort out the confusion that my text caused too. We've been happily dating for 8 months now and I can't wait to introduce her to my parents. Too long didn't read. Had feelings for my good friend, and when she reciprocated I panicked and asked her to not flirt with me, which caused her to date someone else for 2 whole months. We resolved the confusion and it turned out that both of us had feelings for each other. Bro, you only used half the line. If you want to test flirting, say okay, don't flirt with me unless you mean it. What you were looking for is something like, if you keep flirting with me like that, I'm gonna have to start flirting back, etc. Do not flirt with me, yeah. It should not take a plier or a rocket scientist or anybody special to know this is not a good flirty text. I bet a lot of great relationships are ruined by misconstrued text messages. This seems like a long, drawn-out will they or won't they in a TV show that I would be annoyed by but still watch religiously.